What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. We're talking about trade shows this morning. My name's Ben Sawicki. I'm sitting down with Rob Roach and AJ Pacharka of TCC. We're talking about all things trade shows. It's a big year, 2018, with upcoming trade shows and events, things that we're attending and going to, exhibiting as a company, as well as just walking and attending. These guys have attended a whole bunch of trade shows throughout their career. So I think we had a lot of good tips and tricks we can go over and things to talk about. AJ, why don't you start it off, maybe some of the benefits of trade shows, what trade shows are, what the difference might be between trade shows and conferences, just kind of a good overview of what these industry events are like and what's out there.
Well, I think big picture, trade shows and conferences, it's a way to see a lot of different people with essentially one trip. For instance, the AFPM, the amount of meetings that we have as a company, with people from all over the world, really to travel and see each one of those people would be a huge expense and a huge, investment time-wise that you couldn't do without the conference, So it's just really important for us to be in front of people. Obviously, it's kind of what our company was built on. We're old school, in front of people, handshaking and buying dinners and stuff like that, entertaining. So, trade shows and conferences are a big part of what we do.
When did we start getting involved with shows? Have we done it pretty much since the company started? Is it more of a recent trend, or how long have we been participating in shows on any kind of level?
Well, there's a slight difference between trade shows and conferences. Of course, trade shows, you have a booth and people come to you. You might grab somebody from the hallway and say, hey, this is what we do. Are you interested? And then conferences are where, you meet with suppliers, customers, and have a speed dating event, maybe an hour with each of them for over 3-4 days. So conferences, that type of thing, we've been going to for a long time. We've been doing that for a long time. It's ever since our inception. 1988 we started. My father went to NPRA, started by Nelson Ackerboom. He was one of the first guys that ever, he was involved in starting the NPRA, which eventually came to be the AFPM, one of our oldest contacts. In terms of trade shows, the last decade, we've been truly involved in trade shows and getting our brand out there and our products and growing our customer base through trade shows. And examples of the trade shows that we're going to talk about coming up are MPE, ACS. And this is, again, where you put up a booth and, you're looking for new customers and you're meeting current customers, current suppliers, looking for new suppliers. And so that's really the difference between the two. But what was your original question? I guess it was...
Yeah, no, I think that's a good overview of just the difference between the two of them, what kind of industry events are out there. And like AJ said, a lot of the industry is in front of people and handshakes. And, there's a lot you can do with technology these days, but there's nothing more beneficial. I think both of you would agree that being in front of people and meeting people in that format.
Especially our industry, right? It's not, cold calling isn't it's part of it, but it's not the most effective way to do long-term business, right? Like you got to be in front of people and have the relationship, and that's what the trade shows and conferences do for us.
I think it's a good transition into the first one, thinking about timeline-wise for 2018. The next one coming up is the AFPM down in San Antonio at the end of the month. Maybe, Rob, you want to give an overview of what that AFPM is, how we refer to it as the AFPM, but I think there's a different actual title for it, and AFPM's the organization that puts it on. But you want to talk about the AFPM a little bit?
AFPM is the American equivalent of EPCA in Europe, APLA in Latin America, APIC in Asia. It's the American Fuels and Petrochemical Meeting, and it happens each year, typically in San Antonio. A couple of years ago, we were in Dallas. This year, again, we're back in San Antonio, and usually right at the end of March, early April, just before Easter. And we'll head down there next Friday, which is March 23rd-ish, somewhere in that range. And we're going to spend the weekend and up until Wednesday, and the following Wednesday, having meetings. It's just like I said before, to AJ's original point, it's one of those things where you get in front of people. I often go to EPCA every year in October in Europe. APLA's in November, Latin America. Javier goes. Sometimes I go with him. We've been going to the APIC in Asia. So it's specifically to fuels and petrochemical, and we see a lot of suppliers, customers, and spend some time with them and save money not traveling the world and saving time not traveling the world. So it's, once a year, and we're looking forward to it. At this point, you're seeing a lot of your friends. You're catching up with friends. You're catching up with, time that you haven't seen. And maybe it's been a year since you've seen these folks. So it's a great event each year.
And what's one thing maybe, there's the 4 events, there's AFPM and the America version of it, and then there's the other 3 that are all very similar. Maybe when we started going to these, or maybe early on in your careers, what's one thing you might have wished you could have told yourself or had planned ahead of time before actually getting to San Antonio, wherever the event was, prepared wise, maybe making sure you're wearing comfy sneakers or, something along those lines that you wish you knew before you started attending stuff like this?
Pace yourself.
Yeah. Get your sleep in the morning.
Yeah, get your sleep. Yeah, because no matter what, you're going to do dinners, and then you're going to meet somebody for drinks after. You're up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just not a breakfast meeting guy, and for good reason, because I am that guy that doesn't say no. Somebody wants, meet me after, meet me this, so, pace yourself. You definitely need to bring proper clothing, jackets. We like to have jackets, but sometimes it's 90 degrees in San Antonio. Sport coats, and comfy shoes are a must. You're walking a lot, place to place, and you're usually late, so you gotta sometimes run, sprint, get an Uber, get a cab. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, AJ? Pace yourself.
Pace yourself, and especially at the trade shows, like delegate, times for people to work the booth, because I think when I first started anyway, we just, be at the booth from open to close every day and just get worn out, but now we're kind of doing it in shifts, which is better. Keeps you fresh and, makes you more effective, I think, if you're, not tired and, bogged down with your feet hurting and stuff like that.
And I guess it might be safe to say that TCC is relatively a veteran at some of these events at this point. Maybe for a newer company or a company that's just starting to get into shows like the AFPM or APIC or wherever they're based out of, what would you tell yourself early on as a company? Maybe, we set up every person has 10, 20, 30 meetings throughout the weekend. What if you're going down and you have 1 meeting and you're there for 3 days? How can you still get the most out of an event like this?
I wouldn't, hesitate to stand in a lobby and just shake hands and meet people. That's what it's all about, presenting yourself and telling them what you do and how you might be able to help them or they could help you. It's a waste of a trip if you only have 1 meeting. So back in the day, when my father and Forrest were going down to the original MPRA, they had a few meetings, they were just starting out as a company, but they'd spend the time in the lobbies talking to people in the coffee bars and the bars, just, meeting people, take the time to make contacts. That's what it's all about worldwide.
And it's also good to do work in advance, I think, for a lot of, conferences and trade shows to if you as a company that you really want to do business with, call them in advance and try to get a meeting with somebody, So I think the work before you go there is important as well, just as important as the work while you're there.
And that's probably the nice thing about something like this, where it's easy to get a 15-minute, cup of coffee with someone because everyone's in that same area. You're not flying all the way to Virginia from Boston for, a 10-minute meeting or something like that. So it's nice to have that ability.
Definitely. Everybody's already in work mode too. It used to be some Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Now it's Saturday, all day Sunday, Monday and Tuesday for AFPM specifically. So everybody's in work mode. They're ready to talk. They're ready to, share, what they have going on and take advantage of that.
And that's a testament to how beneficial these shows actually are. The fact that it's gone from 24 hours, 48 hours. Now we're at 3, 4, 5 days. I know Nick's going Tuesday. Some of us go down Friday. Some people stay later on in the week too to meet customers and suppliers. So it's good that it's growing and it's obviously beneficial.
It is very much so. Yeah, and it is growing. And even, EPCA, APIC, APLA, we're booked up now, but, we're bringing more people there. And we also use it as somewhat of a, sales meeting. People are like, oh, why does TCC have so many people there? Well, there's so much going on. We want everybody to hear this. We want everybody a part of it. And, being a very flat organization and pretty, transparent with what we're up to, we share information. And, sometimes we'll be with a major supplier. We'll have our EH&S people. We'll have our logistics people. We'll have, our sales manager and his major sales guys there with them. it gets all banged out in one 45-minute or 1 hour meeting, and you can't get that same return on a conference call or through an email, or unless you're again back to the original point, traveling all the time and money that you waste. So.
And plus, these trade shows and conferences have become kind of a staple of what we do. You have to be there. Like if you're not there, everyone's like, why? What's up with them? Why aren't they there? So there's some of that as well.
Yeah, to your point, I find it kind of silly when people cost cut, and they cost cut AFPM. Come on, we're going to cut the travel budget AFPM. Well, what are you adding on the back end to the travel budget? It doesn't make sense. But
well, especially in a case like us where we're doing the coding show and NPE, which we can talk about in a minute, but that's a huge capital expense to have the booth there. Something like AFPM, you're paying for flights, a hotel for a couple nights, 3 meals a day, and it's not a huge capital investment if you're just bringing a couple people, and the registration fee. Yeah. But in the grand scheme of some of these trade shows, how exorbitantly expensive they can get pretty quickly, it's a relatively low budget.
The trade shows are ridiculously expensive if you're going to the big ones. I mean, they are a true investment. You want to look at them, and we the three of us and many more in our company have sat in this very room saying, are we getting a return for all this money? We're looking at the money we're spending. Wow, that's a lot of money. Are we really getting the return for that? And so, yeah, the trade shows are much more an investment than the conferences.
And I think one thing we're especially excited for with this AFPM is our second annual cocktail party. Rob, maybe you want to talk about where that idea came from, how that started, how that fits into our whole AFPM conference kind of strategy, and what we're looking forward to with that this year.
Yeah. Speaking of expensive, yeah. We just took this conference and made it expensive. But no, we wanted a casual, downtime that we could meet our suppliers, our producing partners, our customers over a cocktail, over some food, sort of before the big part of the event. Monday, Tuesday comes on Sunday night. And, Briscoe Art Museum allows us to go and tour the museum, some light music, some drinks, relaxed event. And, we're just growing as a company, and it's a way to thank our customers, producing partners that are there. And it's getting pretty popular. It's only our second year, and already RSVPs are double or triple what they were last year. And we're very thankful for that. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the Briscoe Art Museum for that cocktail event.
And this podcast will come out before the AFPM this year. So if anyone's still interested or has not RSVP'd or wants some more info on our involvement next week in San Antonio or the party, thechemco.com/AFPM. It's a great resource for everything we're doing down there. If anyone's familiar with San Antonio, there's also the famous Riverwalk, and TCC sponsoring a riverboat on that on Sunday as well as Monday morning after the cocktail party, excuse me. Anyone who's attending AFPM, whether you're related to TCC or not, hopefully you are, but you're welcome to just hop on, take a little tour on that in between meetings, however that fits in your schedule. So we're excited about that, to be able to share that Riverwalk and hopefully give some people a good experience with that. Before getting on to the trade shows, I would like to make one point that we're not sponsored or involved with any of these trade shows by any means. These are events and trade shows and conferences that we're attending, we're spending our own money on because we see the value in it. No one's paying us to talk about these shows or anything like that. So just a quick note, these are all
Absolutely,
shows
yeah.
we swear by and we're spending our own money on.
We are, and we appreciate those that are putting on these events for on our behalf, and they're wonderful events, and but we're not sponsored by them by any means.
So a couple weeks after AFPM, mid-April, we have the American Coding Show. AJ, you want to give a little overview on that? What is Coding Show? I know you've had a lot of experience with it in the past, talking about it.
Yeah, so kind of big picture, this is the year that all the stars align. The AFPM, which is every year, the Coding Show is every 2 years, and the NPE is every 3 years. And this is the first year, I think, that all three have fallen kind of right back to back. So we've got a lot on our plate this year. The American Coding Show, we're big in coatings chemicals, obviously, so it's something that's a good show for us to be at. It's in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is a good location for shows because there's a lot of manufacturing out in the Midwest. Obviously, a lot of we base trade shows a lot on the location. If people can access it easy by car or easy travel, they can easily come to walk the show, and that's what you want. You want a lot of
Don't
people
give all
there.
our secrets away here.
Is it always in Indy? Has it been elsewhere before?
We've exhibited the past 3 coating shows, and I think it's always been in Indy. Yeah, I think it's always
I
been.
believe so, yeah. I unfortunately won't be at the ACS. I got other stuff on my calendar at that time, but the NPE, which backs right up to that, is huge, massive. I mean, ACS is a big show. NPE is gargantuan. And unfortunately, NPE conflicts with APIC this year, which is in Kuala Lumpur, so we won't be at APIC this year in Kuala Lumpur. But the NPE is, we had to take a look at what's more valuable to the company, and really the NPE is far more valuable.
And with maybe just getting back to the coding show for a second, if anyone's not familiar with it or has never attended or maybe is thinking about even exhibiting, what major industries or product lines that we're involved with? I know you mentioned the coatings aspect. Who would you recommend be attending these shows? What kinds of companies or people would you be hoping to meet in a show like this with this kind of focus?
Really anybody that falls under the CASE umbrella, which is coatings, adhesives, sealants, elastomers, anybody producing those products or supplying raw materials of those products. There's a lot of folks there, that do related things like machinery and packaging and processing and stuff like that. So it kind of, it's more than just paints and coatings. There's a lot of auxiliary industries that'll be there and should be there because it's kind of the big coating show for the U.S.
Anything else to add? We kind of covered the show pretty well.
We got a lot of great giveaways, and we take a technical sales approach, so our technical folks will be there to talk about the products that we offer that go into the CASE industry. And so, as a technical sales company, maybe there's a technical question you might have. You can find the proper person there to talk to about, maybe a few, what you might be looking into in terms of maybe a bio coating or, something along the lines of a renewable type of, product that can go into making a renewable coating. Even just the general solvents and things that we sell, logistics information, because that's been a big issue. So it's always good to come check out our booth. We always have good giveaways, good coffee, maybe some games if you want to pass some time. I think the ACS is it's a big one for us, and it's kind of interesting how this year all those shows are right back to back.
Yeah, I know coding show specifically, we have Jill coming as well, one of our customer service experts. So we'll have pretty much the whole line, the whole customer team, you could say, from sales to customer service, marketing all the way down. I know I'll be there. AJ will be there as well. So if you're already coming to the show or you're thinking about coming to the show, come say hello. Our booth number is 1947, so we'll be right there. Like Rob said, we'll have a lot of good giveaways. We'll be raffling off a couple little TCC mini drones, which will be fun. Demonstrate our new app and some capabilities with that, as well as obviously some technical sales info and product info. So it should be a good show. We're excited for it. I'm excited for it. It'll be my first time there, so I know it should be fun. And moving right on to NPE. So NPE mid-May down in Orlando at the Orlando County Convention Center. I get that right?
Yeah.
So like Rob said, massive show, Monday to Friday, full 5 days. We want to talk a little bit more about the NPE specifically and our past involvement and what we're looking forward to.
I think this is second or third time we're going to be there. Third time, maybe we're going to be at NPE. It's the sort of the U.S. equivalent of the K show in Europe. NPE is got miles and miles and miles of booths. I mean, it is a massive show, obviously focused on plastics. And we're heavily involved in the polymers industry and supply the polymers industry. So, and it's in Orlando. It's just got, tons of space. And same as AJ was speaking before on ACS, there's everything from, additives and producers of plastics to equipment to processes. All those folks are there. So it's, I think it's over a 5-day period, and we're gonna divide the folks up. But most of us will, most of the general sales managers and sales guys will be there, technical sales. So, and that's in, is it late April? What are the dates for the NPE this year?
I believe it's May 7th to the 11th.
Okay.
So Monday to Friday.
And it's cool to see they have one hall that's all strictly machinery, and they have huge blow molding machines and injection molding machines, and it's kind of interesting to see where the polymer and polymer additives go, and it's cool just to see from that perspective as well.
Yeah. And I could probably ask you the same question from AFPM with these trade shows, the coding show, NPE, Rob mentioned K show, other shows you guys are walking and exhibiting. What's one thing you could have told yourself when you started with TCC, when you started attending shows like this? What's one piece of advice you can give maybe someone walking a show for their first time or thinking about exhibiting? What do you wish you knew back when we started really getting heavily involved?
I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. Do the work in advance. I mean, if it don't just show up and walk and hope to run into somebody. I mean, that could happen, but your most effective use of time is spent with with proper planning and doing the work in advance. I think that's the most important thing from my point of view. Like right now, it's a good time to even start talking to people, saying, hey, we're gonna be at the show. Like, let's have lunch, let's have dinner. Like, let's get a plan, get something on the calendar. Even though May seems like it's a ways away, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, also having an expert that goes down to set up your booth, or at least in this case, there's folks there that really have to set your booth up. So AJ goes down early and he makes sure that they don't break stuff and that they do it properly and that they set things up properly. I mean, it's it's our pride and joy. It's not theirs. They're just there to set it up, and we're sort of forced to have them set it up. So have an expert go ahead of time for your booth and make sure that it's done proper. Back to the original pace yourself. I'm not as organized as AJ. I just like being there and talking to folks, but you get worn out. If you're there from open to close, you're worn out for the next day, so you're not as effective. So I would say that another important thing is to pace it, and it seems silly, but hand sanitizer. You're shaking so many hands. Keep your hands off your face. It's just sort of. It's just out of respect to others, if you're shaking hands, keep your hands clean. Because I remember we had one year we had NPE and then right to AFPM, and I was 5 days straight at NPE in Orlando. By the time I got to AFPM, I was so sick, just because I probably shook 1,500 hands over the period of, it sounds silly, but I'm serious. It's keep it clean.
You don't want to be one of those weird fist bump guys.
Might be prudent, but no, you don't want to be one of those guys.
Yeah, so don't be surprised to see AJ and Rob rolling around the show with some little hand sanitizer clipped right to their belt. Shirt tucked in, got your tie on, and then little hand sanitizer.
Yeah,
right there.
Little TCC, hand sanitizer.
We do have TCC hand sanitizer. So if you're at the show, if you're maybe listening to this in the car on the way or on the plane, we have some little hand sanitizers that hand out. So by all means, swing by, say hello. We're in the South Hall, I believe, for NPE. If anybody's looking for the trade show map and stuff like that, I know the NPE does a great job. They have an app, I believe, to help navigate the show, so we're listed right on there. There'll be info as well on our own mobile app. Hopefully by the time you guys are listening to this, we'll have our own app out there with who's attending from TCC, who you can expect to look forward to seeing at the show, what customer service managers and product managers will be there. So that'll be a good resource as well. Anything else to mention? Any way down the trade show conference line? I know there's a whole bunch of shows we're also exhibiting at and just attending later down the year. Anything else to mention?
There's a lot of industry events. I mean, one of the things in terms of our security supply and program is that we're very heavily invested in industry groups, and so there's a lot of smaller events that we go to that we don't necessarily have to mention, but we do need to support our own industry and industry groups, and so if these are the majors. There's a lot of minors that fall in between these often. And maybe that's something we can put in the app too, that we'll be at these minor events and help the events out, because I listened to the podcast of Perstorp CEO Jan Sescher, and he was talking about how the chemical industry doesn't do a good job of getting through to the emotional side of folks. And I think that we all need to learn more about our own industry and how we can achieve that. And I think these smaller events are good places to get together and promote that and talk about it, and so we can get better at that. But also looking forward in the second half of the year to things like EPCA, which is in Vienna, beautiful place in Europe.
Have you ever been there before?
Yeah, EPCA was there, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't get to see much of Vienna. My wife came with me. She saw a lot of it and said it was great. But we were very busy at EPCA. So, I mean, events are sometimes nice too. You get to see some beautiful locations. Last year, the APIC was in Sapporo, Japan. Great place to go to, culture.
I know Javi went to APLA in Rio.
Yep. I'm not sure exactly where. I think
it's in Cancun this year.
It's in Cancun. Okay, well, that's relatively easy to get to. Yep. Cancun, obviously a nice place to go. So it's not always work, going to these things. Sometimes you get a little downtime. And Cancun, you go right out on the beach and have a Corona. So not so bad.
Not so bad. It definitely doesn't suck, I guess you could say.
Not always.
Nice, guys. Anything else that we missed? Anything else you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to all the events we have this year. We got a lot on the schedule, and I'm just looking forward to getting out and seeing everybody. Between all the shows that we're doing, we'll see all of our regional sales folks and purchasing folks and stuff like that. So it's always good to get together and exchange ideas, and I think a lot of good comes out of that too. Seeing everybody internally. But yeah, I'm excited for this year.
Yeah, that's one thing we're doing with the AFPM as well, because we bring so many people. We actually have when you come to the cocktail party, we'll have a little program handout that'll have everyone at the show. So if you come and AJ, but you're looking to get into Latin America, Javier's contact info will be right on that card, so you can get a good understanding of who's going to be there, which will be nice because we do bring so many people down to the show. I think we covered all of it.
Absolutely.
Anything else to mention?
I think that's about it. I think you did a good job in the framework here, and we covered all the bases.
So if anyone has any questions on shows we're going to be attending, it's always on our social media. It's always in our View from Jamestown monthly email newsletter. We always kind of talk about what's coming up as well in the podcast editions that we're starting as well. So that's the best way to stay up to date with what we're working on and where we're going to be, obviously globally as well as just in the domestic area. So if anyone's looking for more info, thechemco.com or any of our social media platforms will always have the most up-to-date info. Thanks for listening, and we're looking forward to hopefully seeing all you guys out at a show coming up in the next couple months. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.